Hello everyone, my name is Helena and tonight I'm going to be making alkaline Buddha bowls for my family and I. Buddha bowls typically consist of a base, a protein, some vegetables, and a sauce. So for my base, it's usually a grain, so I'm going to use quinoa. I love quinoa because it has all 9 essential amino acids. It is high in fiber and it also has protein. For my protein, I'm going to be using chickpeas, also known as garbanzo beans. They are the best beans out of all the beans. They are also highly nutritious. For my roasted vegetables, I am going to be using kale, butternut squash, asparagus, some white onion, some zucchini, but you can also use bell peppers and mushrooms. There's several alkaline vegetables to choose from. And then for the sauce, I'm going to be using an avocado-based sauce with some basil and other seasonings. For the vegetables, I do want to mention that you can cook them any way you want. You can roast them, you can saute them in a skillet, you can grill them, you can steam them. Just make sure you're adding some vegetables to your Buddha bowl. So real quick, I want to tell you the importance of eating alkaline foods. Our body strives to have a blood pH level of 7.3 to 7.5. So whenever we are eating acidic foods or alkaline foods, that determines our blood pH level. There are other factors, of course, from stress and toxins, but a lot of it comes through our food and what we drink. Nearly all disease formed inside of our bodies is from our body being too acidic. So it is our goal to eat more alkaline foods than acidic foods. It's also important to eat alkaline foods for an easier digestion, as opposed to acidic foods may be sitting in our bodies for quite some time, like a greasy cheeseburger. And it helps keep our body anti-inflammatory and not so swollen and inflamed inside. So I always want to start with the thing that takes the most time. I love to use chickpeas from scratch, so they are dry. That means that you need to soak them in water for at least 8 hours. So if you know that you're going to be meal prepping for the week, or you want to eat Buddha bowls tomorrow or use chickpeas for the next day, make sure you're placing them in water overnight. However, if you need to use the can because you're in a time crunch, you can do that as well. I highly recommend making the garbanzo beans from scratch and not using the canned. It's as simple as putting them in lots of water the night before. Here are my garbanzo beans after I have been letting them soak for several hours. Now they are ready to be cooked on the stovetop for about 45 minutes to an hour. However, you do want to put fresh water into your pot. Discard the water they've been soaking in, as that water has toxins in it that are known to cause gas and bloating. So you're going to want to rinse off your chickpeas, add lots of fresh water to your pot, add some salt, and turn it on a low temperature and let it sit for about 45 minutes. Next, I am going to prepare my butternut squash. Before you start working with your butternut squash, go ahead and preheat your oven to 425 degrees. As you can see, I already peeled this squash. So you're going to want to take a large, sharp knife and cut off each end of the squash. It is important to have a sharp knife, as these squashes are difficult to cut. They're big and they're hard, and it's not flat at this point, so please just be careful and have a good knife. So once you cut it down the middle, you will see that there are seeds. You can keep those seeds and roast them, or you can put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them and keep all your veggie scraps in there and make your own veggie broth later down the road. And then put the halves flat side down and dice them evenly so that they can cook evenly. And of course, the smaller you dice them, the less time they will take to cook. Now add your squash to a roasting tray in a single layer. Do not put any oil on them, as most oils, when you heat them, especially at 425, become toxic anyways to our body. If anything, you can add a little bit of water, but you definitely don't need to. Now place them in the oven for 45 minutes. Next, prepare the quinoa by putting a cup of quinoa in some water and slosh it around like this to remove some dirt. As you'll see, the water is getting murky. Take a small strainer and discard the dirty water. Now put your cleaned quinoa in 2 cups of water and sprinkle some salt. Cover and let cook for about 15 minutes on medium heat. Make sure you are thoroughly washing your vegetables. You can use vinegar or a store-bought wash. Now, similar to your butternut squash, you're going to cut off each end of your zucchini and slice it right down the middle. You're going to take the flat part of your zucchini and place it on your cutting board. Now, when you cut, make sure that your fingernails are pointed down into your vegetable so that you do not slice off the tip of your fingers. Next, we are going to take our asparagus, and with your thumb and forefinger, you're going to bend it until it snaps. It will naturally break where the woody part ends and the tender asparagus begins. To save time, you can do several at once. Make sure that you are saving and freezing those woody ends so that you can make your own veggie broth later down the road. Now you're going to place those chopped vegetables in a roasting tray. You're going to sprinkle some water on top, add onion powder, a little bit of oregano, and sea salt. Again, you do not need to use oil. Oil loses its benefits when heated and becomes toxic, especially at 425 degrees. And now place them in your oven for 20 minutes. I like to buy my kale when it is on the stalk like this because the leaves are bigger. So you're going to take your thumb and forefinger and slide it down the stalk just like that. Sometimes it is kind of difficult to remove it from the stalk, so you can just take it a handful and just remove the stem like this. Place the kale in a roasting dish and sprinkle with some water, some onion powder, and sea salt. Again, you do not need to be using oil for this step. Now place in your oven for about 15 minutes. When your squash is finished, put it in a bowl with some fresh basil, onion powder, and some sea salt. After about 15 to 20 minutes, this is what your quinoa should look like. If you have any extra water, just drain that water. And then you will season your quinoa. You can add whatever spices you like, some sea salt, onion, I added oregano, whatever taste that you acquire. At this time, your chickpeas should also be ready to eat. You can know by just simply trying them. They should be soft, drained from the water. You should keep that water to give to your plants if you have plants as well. Now we are going to season our chickpeas with lots of seasonings. I always add cumin to my garbanzo beans, onion powder. I love cayenne pepper is great. Be careful, a little bit goes a long way. Same with the oregano leaves. Dried herbs go longer than fresh herbs. And sea salt. And taste test them and get it to that strong acquired taste. Also make sure that your veggies are roasting good. So kind of, move them around about halfway through their cook time just to ensure they're all getting evenly cooked. I always love to eat my Buddha bowls with something creamy, so I always go to an avocado. I chopped up some raw onion, added some basil, sea salt, and a little bit of olive oil. You can place it all in a food processor or simply mash it with a fork or spoon and get it to the consistency that you like. Now that everything is seasoned, we're going to place the quinoa first, followed by our seasoned chickpeas. Add your roasted vegetables and top with the creamy avocado. Wow, my mouth is watering. It looks amazing, and that kale is crispy, by the way. Like I mentioned a couple times, make sure that you are keeping those scraps and place them in a Ziploc freezer bag, and you can use them later to make your own veggie broth. Thank you so much for watching and supporting me and my furry friends by eating a cruelty-free, nourishing, alkaline meal. I hope you all subscribe and follow along for more recipes.